52 years ago, Ford introduced us to the Mustang, and a year later, Carroll Shelby took it and made it better. Last year, Ford debuted their 50th anniversary tribute to that car, the GT350. This year, Ford made it better. Or rather, they've made sure that it's the best that it can be. There are 3 new colors this year. This ruby red metallic and a really nice grabber blue too, but the big news is that the previously optional track package is now standard for 2017. And that means the MagnaRide suspension, the heavy duty front springs, the strut tower brace, and the drive mode select, that now comes on every GT350. Now some would argue that Carroll himself probably wouldn't be too happy with these developments. I mean, after all, cars are supposed to be driven by human hands, not computers. But with the recent addition of the independent rear suspension and now this adaptive evolution, the Mustang's handling better than anyone has ever expected. Additionally, an electronics package has been reworked to help make the GT350 more livable. And that comes with dual zone AC and upgraded shaker stereo with satellite radio, plus this 8-inch touchscreen with navigation and voice activation. Now, that's $3,000 tacked on top of an already raised base price of $56,145. I mean, this is a Mustang, right? Well, sort of. This is like a Mustang, it's just better. What this has done is create that sports car ideal of a car that you can race all day and then just drive home. You know, no trailer needed. Even the original GT350 couldn't do that. I mean, not comfortably. And a large part of that success is down to this suspension. Now, let's be honest. Much of the transformation is due to the addition of an independent rear suspension. And that happened in 2015. The GT350 can't take credit for that. But with this MagnaRide and the adaptive dampers, things are different. Now, showing you why and how, that's a little difficult on the street. Thankfully, I don't have to. I was lucky enough to get to drive the GT350 down at Laguna Seca last year, and that's really where this pony shines. Put it into track mode and start pushing it hard through the corners, and you'll find that the limit just comes on gently. I mean, it's just there, hanging back, letting you know it wants to approach. And if you keep pushing and the tires start to let go, it does it with such composure that you just have the time you need to deal with it with your choice of steering or throttle inputs, whatever you like. I mean, the whole thing comes together to convince you that you're a much better driver than you really are. And if you make a mistake, those monster Brembos are just sitting there waiting to bring everything to a halt. I mean, this thing will drop from 60 miles an hour down to 0 in just 100 feet. Now, I was feeling great after my laps in the GT350 down there. And then they put me in the passenger seat of a 350R with one of Ford's drivers. And I would love to tell you that it's the carbon fiber wheels in that R that made the difference, and it's what made him so much faster than me. But I can't. That's not true. He's just better.
With that, I think you're slightly faster than I am. They have a little more experience.
I guess that's really what defines the GT350. It's the potential. There's just so much to work with here. You never run out of car. Listen, I grew up in a Mustang family. When I was a kid, my dad had an 85 GT. It was the last year for carburation. He had an 86 SVO last time they tried a Turbo 4. He had a Bullet Edition in 2001 and he still rocks a drop top. I know Mustangs. This is like no Mustang I've ever driven. It's tight and it's responsive, and honestly, it drives like a much, much lighter car than its 3,800 pounds. But as much as I love this chassis and this astonishing suspension, it's really down to this engine. Okay, I get it. There's no replacement for displacement, and there's a group that believes any sports car should have tire-shredding torque from just off idle. Sorry, this guy has a different goal. This is the first Mustang I've encountered that can truly lay claim to carrying on the mantle of the original Boss 302, and it all comes down to revs. The flat plane crank in this Voodoo engine defines its character, and it also means it revs like a damn motorcycle, with a bark all its own. Now, I've heard people compare it to a Ferrari because of the Italian love for the flat plane crank, but they're wrong. This is not a Ferrari. This is everything I've ever loved about a high-revving European V8, coupled with all the best parts of American muscle. I don't want to overstate the point too much, but let me just say that this is the most beautiful mechanical thing that I've experienced in a long time. And if I had my way, this review would be nothing but me just revving the engine and passing through the gears, so you can enjoy that audio too. Getting down to the numbers, this engine hits its power band just after 3,000 RPM, giving you a peak of 429 pound-feet at 4,750 and 526 horsepower at 7,500. Feel free to continue on to the 8250 redline because it'll keep pulling. Now let those numbers sink in. Do you have any idea what you can do with 5,000 RPMs of usable engine? Hit your favorite twisty road or your local track. You'll have good reason to hit any of your favorite corners in 2 or maybe even 3 gears. It's incredible, and the sound. What it comes down to is the versatility. Yes, above 3,000 RPM, this engine is an absolute demon. But below that, it's completely civil. The clutch is the same. This is one of the lightest clutches I've ever driven, and yet it still manages to avoid that on-off character that you can get with a lot of light clutches. And these seats, these are essentially racing Recaros, and yet they're completely comfortable, even for my overly lanky frame. I mean, I've driven over 100 miles on the highway, done day trips up to wine country, spent 7 hours driving this thing in traffic and everything. I had no issues. I'm telling you, this car is just, it's livable. Okay, you want some complaints? Well, these days, you can drive away in a V8 Mustang for around 35 grand. This costs 56, and that's if you stay away from the options list completely. Now, for an extra $20,000, it'd be nice to see less, hard plastics and something other than the same stalks and switchgear that you're going to get in any rental V6 Mustang at the airport. That said, every time I try to complain about that, my words seem to get drowned out. So let's talk wish lists. Personally, I think Shelby would have preferred this stripped out R version, but without the MagnaRide suspension. And how about a little bit of extra weight loss? I mean, 3,800 pounds is still pretty portly. And as long as we're rubbing lamps and throwing coins into fountains, I'd like to point out that the original GT350, that cost around $4,500 in 1965, the equivalent of around 35 grand in 2017 dollars, which is the price of a base V8 Mustang nowadays. So something's off, right? I mean, can you imagine being able to purchase the equivalent of GT350 performance in 2017, but for 35 grand? But then, this GT350 offers something that the original never could, a true, livable track car. With some more aggressive tires, there's little you could ask of this that it wouldn't be able to deliver. And if you want more, there's always the GT350R. You know, it's just another $7,500. Hey, thanks for watching. For full details on the 2017 Ford Mustang Shelby GT350, just click the link in the description. You can head over to CarGurus.com and read my full review. And for more video reviews, just subscribe to the channel.